Every year in South Africa, 345 million litres of wine is consumed. That is approximately 7 litres per capita. But do we know what goes into a bottle of wine? "70% of the country's fresh water is used for irrigation, and it takes on average 120 litres of water to produce 1 glass of wine. The process also produces effluent, which, if not treated, can pollute our water resources. There are almost 100,000 hectares of wine-producing grapes under cultivation, 95% of which are situated within the Cape Floral Kingdom. Today, less than 7% of the Renosterveld remains, confined to steep, rocky areas that cannot be ploughed. These fragments are rich in plant life and contain species found nowhere else in the world, which makes them a top priority for conservation. Almost all remnant Renosterveld is on private land, subjecting it to further transformation, degradation and invasion by alien plant species if not looked after. Given the overlap in the distribution of Renostervelds and land suited to viticulture, the wine industry has a vital role to play in the conservation of this precious heritage.
When you look at us as wine farmers, we're really only borrowing the land for the next generation. So we need to look after it. And the only way we can look after it is to understand the interaction between wine farming, grape growing, and conservation at the same time.
The BWI, or the Biodiversity and Wine Initiative, is a conservation initiative that's been there almost for 10 years. And the main aim of this initiative is actually really to get landowners, private landowners with wine farms to take part in conservation and to conserve the last bit of remnants of natural areas on their farms. At the same time, we're also looking at sustainable practices in winemaking. So we have a very holistic approach. We're looking at the whole farm and assisting wine farmers to actually make wine in a more sustainable way. There were a lot of worry in the conservation circles about expansion of vineyards, especially into the natural areas, into critical habitat. A landowner has to have at least 4 hectares of natural area that needs to be still in a pristine condition. That means not ploughed at all before. They also have to belong to the Integrated Production of Wine scheme, the IPW scheme. That's sort of a scheme looking at sustainable winemaking on the farm and the cellar side. They have to have a very basic environmental management plan in place. They have to have a map indicating that where exactly the natural area is situated.
A new avenue that we within BWI are working on is more formally setting aside that land into a stewardship model. So we're working together with Cape Nature. Cape Nature has a very stringent requirement for setting aside land in a contract with Cape Nature to say that there is no development planned into perpetuity, which is very, very valuable.
What's quite interesting is the South African wine industry has taken it upon itself to really look after the environment, and was literally the first of its kind to bring in integrated production of wine, looking at sustainable ways of growing grapes as well as making wine. And we have a certification system that is better than anywhere else in the world. Within the winelands area, there's actually more hectares conserved under BWI and integrated production of wine than there are actually vineyards planted.
From day one, conservation and balance of understanding agriculture and nature have always been part of our program. I think BWI is an incredible initiative to encourage all people involved in agriculture to not only understand that there should be a balance between what you take from the land, but what you put back onto the land and what you look after on the land. That to me is vitally important in the beauty of the Western Cape. It has a huge knock-on effect, positive knock-on effect for our tourism. No other vineyard area in the world has this beauty and this nature to combine as a marketing tool. So what's inside the bottle is what we know as winemakers, but what's outside the bottle here in the Western Cape is what nobody else has in any other wine growing region. Okay, I think the reality of BWI is that because there's been more enthusiasm for it, I think more properties attempting and getting involved. It obviously puts a lot of strain on the staff of BWI to get all the work done. But for me, if you're a true BWI member, you most probably, once you've set sail, you're on your own. And I think it's up to the property owners and the management of those properties to actually drive it themselves and rather be sort of supplementary, complementary to BWI. Nature's looked after by people who have a passion for that. And the more of that culture we can create in agriculture, the more successful BWI will become.